London, 1157 AD. Crusader knights cover one of their own with a gem resting in his grasp. Leap to the current day where the burial chambers of numerous different crusaders are found underneath London's mausoleums. Dr. Henry Jekyll, Russell Crowe, enters the passages and goes over one specific burial chamber with pictographs, driving him to acknowledge what this implies. Through flashbacks, Jekyll recounts the account of Princess Amunet, Sophia Boutella. She was a fantasy fighter who was prepared to succeed her dad, the pharaoh Meneptah, Selva Raslingam, until his subsequent spouse brought forth a kid. Realizing that the kid would be the pharaoh's new replacement, Amunet made an agreement with Set, the Lord of Death, to sell her spirit for a dim power. Amunet murders Meneptah, his better half, and their child. She plans to play out a custom on her sweetheart utilizing an exceptional blade that would give Set his very own body, yet the pharaoh's clerics halted Amunet and killed her darling. She was embalmed alive and had her stone coffin detracted from Egypt and down a burial chamber where she would never be found. We move to Mesopotamia, or Iraq, in the current day. U.S. Armed Force Sergeant Scratch Morton, Tom Journey, and his mate Corporal Chris Val, Jake Johnson, are surveillance fighters riding toward a town being overwhelmed by radicals. Scratch needs to go down for some experience while Val is emphatically against it. They go down there at any rate and have chance at. Val orders an airstrike to take the guerrillas out. As the bombs are dropped, an opening opens in the ground, almost sucking Scratch and Val down there. They find Amunet's burial chamber. The folks' boss, Colonel Scenic Route, Courtney B. Vance, comes to the site in a helicopter and quickly censures the two for running off and doing whatever they might want to do, pursuing extremists. Minutes after the fact, a paleologist named Jenny Halsey, Annabelle Wallace, appears and smacks Scratch for taking a guide from her after they shared a night together. Subsequent to seeing the burial chamber, Scratch, Val, and Jenny all plunge to see what is down there. Jenny noticed that there are watcher sculptures confronting internal rather than outward, and there are binds holding the stone casket while lowered in mercury to debilitate detestable spirits. Scratch shoots a chain, making the stone coffin ascend from its property. He then, at that point, sees a dream of Amunet calling to him, saying thanks to him for liberating her. A lot of camel bugs start slithering down from the walls. Val takes shots at them, however he gets nibbled in the neck, however Scratch claims they are not harmful. They return to the surface and bring the stone coffin up. Everybody rides home in a plane. Val begins to act strange as his skin has become dim and his eyes look stained. He attempts to release the stone coffin from its possessions. Scenic Route approaches him to stop him, yet Val wounds him 2 times, killing Scenic Route. Val begins advancing toward Scratch and different officers, compelling Scratch to shoot Val dead. Scratch and Jenny go into the cockpit and see an entire run of crows flying and crashing through the windshield. The pilots are killed and the plane begins to go down. Scratch gives Jenny a parachute and pulls it so she can get out securely. The plane then crashes with everybody installed. Scratch awakens in a body pack at a mortuary in London. Remaining close to him is Val's apparition, who lets him know that they are both reviled. Jenny is requested to recognize the bodies from the departed, however is astonished to see Scratch alive. At the accident site, salvage laborers track down the stone coffin and Amunet's body. One man approaches it and is surprised as Amunet drains the life out of him and his accomplice to recover her body. She then, at that point, utilizes her powers to transform them into vivified carcass slaves. Scratch and Jenny are in a bar. he goes to the washroom and sees Val's phantom conversing with him once more. He cautions Scratch that Amulet has picked him on purpose. Scratch then runs out of the bar and is cornered in a rear entryway by an entire multitude of rodents. They creep all over him as he sees Amulet slithering toward him. However, he is woken up from this vision by Jenny. She lets Scratch know what she gained from perusing the symbolic representations on the stone casket. She is familiar with Set's knife and the gem that should go along with it to finish the custom. Jenny educates Scratch regarding the gem being covered with the Crusaders there in London. Scratch and Jenny go to the Crusaders' burial chambers and they uncover the gem from the Crusaders' final resting place. As they attempt to leave, they are caught by Amulet and her undead slaves. Scratch and Jenny ward off the undead and get away from the burial chamber. They ride through the forest in a van and are pursued by Amulet and the undead. An undead slave crashes through the windshield and makes the van topple and move down a slope. Amulet attempts to get Scratch, however she is shot with a snare and is brought down. An entire group of men make an appearance to protect Scratch and Jenny. The two are taken to Prodigium, an office situated underneath the Normal History Historical Centre of London. As Scratch strolls through the corridor, he sees various curios, incorporating a skull with teeth, Dracula, and a flaky lower arm animal from the Dark Lagoon. Scratch meets Jekyll, who starts to make sense of what he is familiar with Amulet and the powers of Detestable out there. Their office is committed to uncovering dull powers and containing them. Amulet is tied up and is curbed with mercury being siphoned through her body. Scratch moves toward her and pays attention to her discussing the custom she endeavored to perform on her darling. She attempts to influence Scratch by saying he would have full oversight over death and become a living god in the event that he joined her. Scratch gets back to Jekyll's office with Jenny. Jekyll has all the earmarks of being going through a change and attempts to forestall it utilizing a serum. However, Scratch snatches the serum, requesting replies. A Prodigium specialist hauls Jenny out yet leaves Scratch inside. Jekyll then, at that point, transforms into his immense change self-image, Edward Hyde. He and Scratch battle, with Hyde almost winning until he gets infused with the serum. In the meantime, Amulet gathers a camel bug to slither into the ear of another specialist with the goal that he might break her liberated from her holds. Amulet is free and she takes the knife and the gem. Scratch and Jenny escape the office as Amulet releases a dust storm upon the city. Scratch and Jenny go through the passages where they experience a greater amount of Amulet's undead slaves. The two battle them once more, with Scratch squashing or ripping their heads off. They are driven into the water by an undead yet they obliterate it. Scratch and Jenny swim up for air yet Amulet snatches Jenny and hauls her submerged. Scratch wards off a greater amount of the undead and attempts to save Jenny, however she suffocates. Scratch hauls her body out of the water and is stood up to by Amulet. Yet again he endeavors to crush the gem until Amulet attempts to convince him to join her. Scratch holds the knife out as though to give it to her, however he rather wounds himself with it, presently becoming moved by Set. He fights Amulet and gives her the kiss of death to drain the existence out of her, diminishing her back to a carcass. Scratch then, at that point, heads toward Jenny and resurrects her by shouting at her to awaken. He then, at that point, vanishes. Jenny reunites with Jekyll as Amulet's body is set once more into a stone casket loaded up with mercury. Jenny considers what will end up Scratching now that he is in fact a beast. Jekyll muses that it took a beast to overcome a beast, and that there is potential for Scratch inasmuch as he holds the slightest bit of his humankind. Some place in the desert, Scratch has resurrected well. They ride their ponies off on one more experience as a dust storm follows them.